and I can hear in my headphone, who is that's over there in frame? And I was like, what are they talking about? I'm like, there's nobody in the room. And then I realized it was me. Just kind of like, not strong arm them, but like just really try to like push these hesitant kids into doing this program, because you just understand how important these programs are and what they can get out of it. Building those relationships. And again, as I mentioned earlier, just being that soundboard for them, and just being that support system for them, I think is the most important thing, because, you know, it's said that, you know, when teens have at least one mentor in their life, their outcome is just exponentially higher than if they don't have one.
You can never tell me. You can never tell me I won't rise.
What's going on, y'all? This is Jay Faith from the Right Mind Podcast. I just want to say peace and God bless as always. I'm going to say thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe. Check us out on social media. Subscribe on YouTube, all the places, all the wonderful things. Let's make connections through conversations and grow from there, man. That's all I can really say. Again, I pray as we begin this that, you know, if you don't know God, give him a chance. Get to know him, get to understand him, and I can promise you that you will not regret it. But you got to do it yourself, and I want you to take that step. Don't just take it from me, but find out for yourself. So anyways, we are continuing our series when it comes to Month of the Military Child. As you can see, today I am by myself. So I do want to shout out the team, shout out Krispy, shout out Life. Appreciate you guys as always. And again, just going along with the theme, I just want to shout out all the military kids out there, young, old, teens, preteens, infants, all you guys. You are amazing people. You guys deal with a lot of different things, despite just trying to be kids yourselves. And so I just want to say, you know, I appreciate you guys. Without you guys, I wouldn't have a job. So, you know, it's truly been a blessing. And that is kind of the direction that I wanted to go today, was to kind of share my side of things as somebody who works at a military youth center and gets to engage with military youth on a day-to-day basis. And so, you know, when I first kind of got into this, I really didn't have any expectations. This was definitely not the career field that I was looking to do. So I originally started within a school age program, which the kids are about kindergarten age up until technically 12 years old, right? And so when I first started, you know, I did all the trainings. I got to understand just redirection and how to engage with youth, and I really had some great trainers that really guided me along the process to just being a good mentor to these kids at this age group. And so, you know, once I finally got the swing of things, I was able to just really start to dive into the things that I really enjoyed, which were, you know, music, sports, you know, just kind of getting into those things. I hadn't even started the podcast yet. And so, you know, music was a big part of what I was doing at that time. I mean, it still is, but that was kind of my primary focus. I didn't have the podcast. I didn't have the clothing line. So a lot of it was just working on music and kind of just encompassing that into what I do with the job. We would do, you know, kind of our own version of you know, Kids Bop. So, you know, we would find songs that the kids like. We'd find some beats, download them, and then the kids would get to record. I'd bring my microphone in. The kids would be able to just kind of record that music and check it out and those kind of things, and just kind of learn the recording process, be able to hear themselves. I had some engineers, so I had, or I should say I had an engineer, and so I would sometimes send the music out, get it kind of mixed and mastered for them to be able to just kind of hear themselves. Just sounded really good, right? And just to, again, just kind of gain that experience. And, just along the way, with just kind of my own passions and really gaining a love for the impact that we have within this role between, just the kids that are coming in and just, for military kids, they're not there that long, maybe 2 years. So you start to grow a lot of connections with them. And then, unfortunately they have to leave. And so I definitely created a lot of just connections with a lot of kids. And so, a lot of them, I even follow, on Facebook today, when they left the program, maybe 9, 10, maybe 11 years old. And now they're going off to college, or graduating college, or, graduating high school, just far beyond the way that they left. Right. And it's just a beautiful thing to just see them, even from a distance, just kind of growing up and be able to just remember and reflect on, the times that you had while they were within the program. So, my mom had worked on the base, and so she kind of linked me up to even just applying. I had originally gone to the program that I work at now during the summer. And so I did have some sort of affiliation with the base and these kind of youth programs. So, it really wasn't, a drastic change for me as far as just scenery and people. And when I got the interview, my interview was with, he was the flight chief at the time, which is essentially just the guy that kind of oversees all of the youth programs. And, other, Boys and Girls Clubs will call that like your CEO, your director, who just kind of oversees all the programs. He was the sports director at the time when I used to go to summer camp. So when I walk in the door, he remembers me immediately, and it felt more like a homecoming than it did an interview. And, I, the day that I got the interview, I still remember, even to this day. I mean, I have the scars to prove it, but I think it's on this hand. I can't remember anymore. But anyways, I was working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, which was probably my second favorite job ever. If you've ever worked at Enterprise, shout out to you, man. But, or if you've never worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, I did the car detail. I was a car prep, so I just kind of cleaned up all the cars. We'd also go pick up cars, and we'd also pick up customers. So, you hear Enterprise, we'll pick you up. Well, we were the ones that would typically pick the customers up, and then we drop them off at the sales rep, and they would rent the car. But for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, the bay, we were getting paving done, and for whatever reason, the doors to the office end up getting locked. And so we were kind of stuck outside. We had, people we had to pick up, cars we had to get ready, all the things. And so I made the suggestion, because in between the bays, there's these little windows. And I made the suggestion, well, why don't we just break the window and just crawl through? We can get into the, we can get into the office that way. And then, we can just open the door and be about our day. And so what I kind of got the approval from the boss, and, he was like, go for it. And so I took one of the cement pavers, the metal pavers, the ones that, they're kind of flat at the bottom, and, they usually just kind of pound it to just to like kind of level everything off. And so I had used that, but I didn't kind of recognize or take into account the weight of it. So when I pushed it through the glass, my hand kept going and it caught a piece of the glass on the side that hadn't, broken off. So I ended up cutting my pinky. Actually, as I'm looking down, I can see it. So kind of from the top of, in between, this knuckle here and where it meets my hand, I have a scar that kind of curls all the way down here, where the glass caught. So, they call the ambulance. I end up getting workers' comp. But while I was in the ambulance, the program had called me and said, "Hey, we are calling you to schedule an interview." And I said, "Well, that's great, but give me, can I call you back? I'm, kind of indisposed at the moment." I don't remember if I told them that I was actually in an ambulance, but I remember showing up to the interview, stitches in my hand, and in suit and tie and everything. But it was just an interesting way to get a phone call for an interview. But that's kind of just where it all started. I was, just looking for more work. I was working at Enterprise. It was only part-time. So this and just something with a little bit more pay. So, this job just allowed me to do that. And I grew into, different positions. I got the lead position, while I was working there, I think both times, that I've worked there. So, I had worked there, and then I left in about 2013. So 2010 is when I started. I left in about 2013, and then I came back in 2015, had to start not from scratch because they had all my records. I had all the training, so I didn't have to do all that stuff. But, it wasn't supervisor, but I was able to, the person that was supervisor left. I jumped into supervisor. Actually, that might have been the first time that I was supervisor. I might have been lying before. I honestly can't remember. Time has just gone. I think I was doing the preteens at that point. So you had your younger kids, and then you had the preteens, which were your, like, once the kids turned 9, they were considered preteens. And so I was kind of responsible for that older group. And I think, as I'm sitting here and reflecting on this, that kind of prepared me for what I was about to do. And so I left in 2013. I had just moved out. And so I was looking for something that was more full time, again, a little bit more pay. So, couple jobs later, I come back in 2015 and go right back to the same program. I get the supervisor, and then again, just kind of just growing within it, having a couple opportunities to help out at like a teen night. I kind of got and grew into the desire of wanting to go over there. I was able to, kind of just play basketball in the way that I wanted to. I didn't have to, kind of pull back. I could get a little bit more aggressive with the kids and also just teach them things, right? Teach them. And I was getting into art. So being able to just kind of teach a different style of art to them in a way that they understood. And again, just didn't have to kind of water it down. That's just my style. It's not to knock, saying that they don't need it to be watered down. It's important because that's how they're going to learn and how they're going to grow in order to do it. But anyways, so I was initially going for the assistant director. Hiring freeze happened. And then once the hiring freeze was lifted, they actually got rid of the position. So that quickly went out the window. And then the person that was the team coordinator, which is the position that I am now, they were going and switching into a position in the building that I was already in. So we kind of just switched. And so she came over there, and then I went over to the team position, and I've been there ever since 2017. And it has been, honestly, I mean, other than God, right? The biggest blessing that has allowed me to be able to give back to teens in a way that I could never imagine, because there were programs that I was able to run that, again, it just kind of just thrown in my lap, and or were just requirements of things that I had to do. And so in doing that, a lot of it was like leadership opportunities for the kids and just watching them grow. And it really involved me trying to build those relationships again with teens, those older kids compared to the preteens that were in the building as well. And just really trying to facilitate those relationships. And you're able to have just kind of deeper conversations. You try to talk to a preteen about, what they want to do for their future. And it's kind of, one word answers. They're not really sure. And that's okay. That's just where they're at as it pertains to their age. But, with teens, like, you can really kind of dive deeper, and you can also just be that kind of sounding board for them, to be able to just kind of bounce ideas off, talk about their future, or if they're just going through a rough day, like you can be that person that, other than their parent, and just a different face that they see that they can talk to, and just kind of vent to sometimes, and I've always told the kids that if they ever need just to kind of vent for a second, like, hey, let's, kind of go over here, say what you got to say within reason. Obviously safety, number one thing as always, but just allowing them to be able to know that they can be heard. And so that's kind of been the journey, when it comes to, how I got to this space. And again, like I said, it's just been such a blessing for me in just getting here, right? Yeah, I am tired. I won't even begin to get into my day, but yes, I am tired, but we're going to keep pushing forward. But, in working with these kids, again, I mean, I was kind of used to the transitions of them, right? Of, kind of 2 years, year and a half, maybe 3 years, and then they're out of here. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned, to do for the kids, one is when they get there, is to just kind of just really embrace them, for who they are, really kind of get them roped into the program and into something, whether it's, they come to just go to go play basketball, or they come to, go play the piano, or they're coming to do art, or they're coming to do STEM, like, or a leadership group, something that they can kind of cling to while they're here. And part of that is just getting to know them and understanding who they are and what their interests are. And so, because these kids are, a lot of them, they've moved, if they're 15 years old, like, a lot of them have moved like 7 times maybe within their life already. And so, they definitely, you hope that they're building up this sort of resiliency, but, it's how do you build that up? Well, it's about giving them a space that they know that when they arrive, they can feel welcome, so that when they go to the next space, you want it to be the same. And so they can have that kind of understanding and mentality when they get to the next place, it's going to be just as welcoming and just as supportive. So, just kind of supporting that for the kids. And, I didn't really have too many kids that their parents got deployed. I maybe had a handful. And, even in that, it was definitely tough, especially there was one, it was during COVID. So a lot of deployments got extended because of just, safe travel or just things that were happening at the time. And so, you're kind of just there to be that support. Like, hey, like, I know your mom, I know your dad is not here. They're kind of stuck wherever they are, or they're just deployed. But you have a village around you. You have a community around you of people that are here to support you and just be there for you. And so I think part of that is really just what for me has been kind of the guiding force of trying to help teens, youth build that resiliency is being able to figure out, what makes them tick, and then finding ways to incorporate that into the programs that we run. And again, just give them something to stick to when they show up in the program. And again, this way, when they go to another program, they can be like, hey, like, I am really interested in art. Where's your art room? And, if they don't have one, then, hopefully, we have built some sort of a relationship with them that, at least in my perspective and my desire, is that they try to create a way for that to be in that space. So if there's not an art space, like talking to those advisors and being like, hey, like, how can we get art in this space? How can we, bring more art? It's really something I'm interested in. How do I do that? And also just finding ways to introduce them to those things in a way that they maybe haven't seen before, taking them to a museum, taking them, bringing people in that do art and being able to showcase that to them, I think is really important. And just getting them acclimated to different things that are outside of their view. I mean, they're traveling a lot, so they're seeing a lot of things, but still within the location, because, say you come from the Midwest and then you come over to, I don't know, Boston or something, or Massachusetts, those are two different landscapes. So being able to, get them acclimated to the area that they're in and find some sort of appreciation in that too is valuable as well. For that. Because a lot of times you have kids that come in and, again, my goal is to watch these kids grow and to step outside of their comfort zone and really push themselves to just be better and to really find who they are as people. And, I can definitely remember there was one kid. He came in, super quiet, but he was always that type of kid. And he was kind of like me, where, he wasn't always the kid that would maybe step up for a leadership position, but you give him a task and he'll be the first one to jump on it and get it done. And you don't really need to keep tabs on him. Just, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this. All right, cool. Got it. You can leave him in peace and he'll get it done. And that was, definitely a trait of mine growing up. Just always willing to help, but not really, kind of jumping into that leadership role. And so watching him do these programs, we have a program called Keystone Club, which is a leadership group, which is led by teens. And so just watching him grow within that from being that person that just kind of, quote unquote, took orders, to, offering suggestions for projects and really just kind of voicing what he wanted to say to the group and not being intimidated or afraid to say those things. And obviously that comes with time, that comes with growth, and experience and stuff like that. And so he ends up doing another program called Youth of the Year, which is a recognition program for Boys and Girls Club. And, he ended up doing it 2 years in a row. And the first year, very nervous public, you got to do public speaking. So very nervous public speaking, you could, just shaking, nervous, which again, I'm kind of the same way. I've definitely gotten a lot better with performing, with just having to do my own presentations. And so, you see that, and then just his desire to do it again a second year. He didn't advance past regionals, and so he won states, but didn't pass regionals, which again, I mean, congrats for even making it that far, right? So the following year, as we're just kind of putting everything together, I can just see his confidence growing. And by this time it's COVID. Everything is being done virtually. And so I just remember, we did states virtually, did the whole thing. And then when it came to regionals, even though we were virtual, I still remember this as well too. So what happened is he ended up being a finalist for regionals, which I was just already to the moon about it, because he had the opportunity to even becoming a finalist, grow further than what he did the year before. And so again, because it was COVID, we normally, what happens is, you do the gala and the judging, the gala and everything within the same day. But because of COVID, they wanted to do this kind of special production. The finalists got to do their speeches. And so what we ended up doing, they sent us like a laptop and all these things, right, to put this production on, make sure everything was good, cool, whatever. And I remember I had a headphone in because I was on the phone with the production team, they were just kind of making sure everything was going good, connections were right, video was clean, all the things. And so I remember trying to stay off to the side. So if he is standing, I don't even know how to explain this, but if he's staring at the computer with the computer in front of him, I was trying to stand behind him and off to the side. Well, I remember as they were starting to record and his kind of spotlight was coming on, I can just hear in the thing like, he was doing his speech. And I can hear in my headphone, who is that's over there in frame? And I was like, what are they talking about? I'm like, there's nobody in the room. And then I realized it was me. I was the one that was standing in frame. And so, I can remember just, sorry, I'm doing everything as we're doing this on the fly, right? I remember kind of darting to like his left side, and trying to get out of frame, but I couldn't go too far because the door was right there. And I was afraid I was also just going to bang into the door and make a lot of noise. But I dove to the floor. And the thing that I remember the most was that he did not even blink when it came to my movement. He just kept right on going with his speech. He just kept on just pushing forward like I wasn't even in the room. And for me, that was just like kind of just like a really big growth moment. Again, a kid, if you just kind of know his backstory, a kid that really didn't know how to speak or know the alphabet at like the age of 7, just a lot of challenges growing up. So for somebody like that at the age of 7 to be in that predicament or just that situation, to public speaking and not even flinching, when something happens, was truly just a moment for me to just like see how far these kids can go. And so, every day that these kids come in, I'm always trying to just kind of push them into the next thing, because I know it's going to benefit them. Because, sometimes they do this youth of the year program, and sometimes you got to just kind of like not strong arm them, but like just really try to like push these hesitant kids into doing this program, because you just understand how important these programs are and what they can get out of it. And it's just like trying to get them to understand that, because every single time that they do it, they're like, man, like I realize how important this is, why I did this. And I'm so glad that I did this, not because of me, but just because of what the programs do. And it just, again, just allows teens to kind of discover their passions, discover who they are, and then again just step outside that box that sometimes they step into, that they don't realize that they can step out of. So where we are celebrating month of the military child. And I think it's such an important time of year. Obviously it's a little nicer weather, so you can kind of enjoy it, maybe do a barbecue with the kids, really throw a special event. But I'm glad that there is some sort of recognition for this, just because, obviously, we support our military troops. And I just want to shout them out for what they do, their dedication, their sacrifice for this country. Whether you fully believe in what they're doing, why they're doing it, who's running the country at the time. These are people that are dedicating their lives for a country. They're getting deployed, and so sometimes into harsh situations, or just deployed in the sense of they gotta go out of state for a couple weeks, and even that can disrupt a family. And so they're leaving their spouses, they're leaving their children or child, and so just shout out to them for what they do, and their sacrifice for what they do. But I'm grateful that there is this kind of time for youth to be recognized, because they go through a lot too. We've said it before that the youth kind of serve as well with the parents, because they're kind of moving, they're kind of experiencing different things. Obviously they're not getting deployed, but they do just kind of still experience that deployment of not having their parent there. I think we have the month, but I think that, not that it needs to be like overly exaggerated, but and not that it's to take away anybody else, civilian side wise. But I think, I don't know, I think for all youth, they should just be, kind of supported and celebrated throughout the year. And I know a lot of places do that. I'm not here to say that it doesn't happen. But I think just kind of uplifting military youth throughout the year is helpful because of that, of the transitions that they go through, and again, just trying to help build that resiliency. Because if you're celebrating them and they're feeling welcomed and they're feeling like they belong in the places that they are, the better that they're going to be, and the better their transitions are going to be, because they know that where they were, they felt appreciated, and where they're going next, they can feel just as appreciated. So it's just important, that we just continue to celebrate them, continue to uplift them, not only just for a month, but just throughout the year. I just think it's very important. The best, I think, again, speaking on these transitions and stuff, I think the best support for them are mentors, like, people like me. I've met a lot of just amazing and great advisors in the 8 years that I've been doing this, at least on the teen side. A lot of great advisors that I have learned from, I continue to learn from. And I've been blessed to be able to, even though I don't think I'm much, and that I have so much to learn, and I feel like I'm on, I'm still on the learning curve of this kind of position, but, been able to just kind of help as well. But I think probably the number one most valuable thing are the advisors, are people, the staff that work in these programs. I think are so important to just the benefit of these teens, especially, teens specifically, obviously speaking on what I do, because, they are the ones that the teens see, day in, day out, that are coming in. You're, typically kind of the first person that they see. You don't want to leave them, to their own spaces even within the program, just going up and saying, hello, how you doing? How's your day? What's going on? How was this? And remembering certain things about them, whether, again, their interest in basketball. So, asking them about, their team basketball game, their high school basketball game, or, their baseball game, or how was their concert, or, what'd you do in the art show, or just how was school, or your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever it may be. Right. But just building those relationships. And again, as I mentioned earlier, just being that soundboard for them, and just being that support system for them, I think is the most important thing, because, it's said that, when teens have at least one mentor in their life, their outcome is just exponentially higher, than if they don't have one. So I just think advisors play such an important role in just this whole system of everything, when it comes to just kind of supporting these teens. So, again, shout out to all the advisors that I've met throughout the years, the ones that have helped me just grow. I mean, extra shout out to you guys, and just the ones that continue to support and just continue to just to reach out and just drop nuggets all the time. Even some of the new ones, advisors that are newer in the movement that, just have a different understanding and just have a different, mindset. Those things are beautiful. So, you can learn from somebody, whether they've been doing this for 2 years or whether they've been doing this for 20. There's always something that you can take from a person, to learn and to help you grow. I mean, try it out. If it works, amen. If it doesn't work, amen. You go and you try something else, but at least you are trying and you are making that effort, to kind of push forward and just kind of do those things. So I just think it's so important that that these youth have somebody in their corner that they can trust, And I think, if I have to give advice to anybody that wants to do this type of work, I think the biggest thing for me, which I see in a lot of staff that, I don't want to say fail at this job, but have a short lifespan when it comes to this job. They start and then, maybe they're here for a few months, 6 months, to a year, and then they just kind of lose the love for it. And again, that's not to say that, they weren't like trying this out like I was. I just happened to fall in love with it. But I think there is a difference. And there's been many staff that, you could see that this is something for them, but outside things or just little things that come up within reason, of course, that causes them to leave. And again, my advice would be to, one, remember why you start, and remember who you're supporting. This isn't about us. I think a lot of times, and there's been moments where I'm like, yeah, like I just want to go in the gym and play basketball, and I have to really kind of dial myself back sometimes, and just be like, hey, I know you want to play basketball, but there are, and you are engaging with with the youth. It's not that I'm not engaging with youth, but there could be, instead of playing basketball, maybe you're working on art with a kid, and they're able to just kind of find that passion. So my first thing would be, remember why you start, and remember who you're serving. When you do that, sometimes those tougher things, and I've seen it in a good buddy of mine who's a staff member, because he's been through a lot when it comes to how he's been working and where he's been working, still kind of within the same role, but maybe not ideal situations. But one of the things that he says to me is, the reason I'm still here is the kids, is the relationships that I've built with these kids. It's very hard for me to leave, knowing that whether who's to say it ends up being a tougher situation, or just a simple fact of maybe he's the only person that they talk to as staff, which is fine. There's definitely kids that won't talk to me, but they'll talk to our other staff member. But and then they'll have to find a new staff member, and that can be difficult too, especially when you have built such a relationship with them. So remember why you started, remember who you serve, and I think just continue to engage with the kids and help them to find those passions. Like I said earlier, sometimes I do want to play basketball, and I love playing basketball even when I'm hurt. But there could be a kid that is wanting to do art. Take some time to do art with them, because moments like that, those kids remember, where you are taking the time to teach them something, especially when it's something that they're passionate about. And when somebody kind of just takes a moment to kind of dive into that, they remember that. And so you never know what kind of impact you could have on a kid. And I guess that would probably be my fourth and kind of last thing, is remember the impact that you can have by engaging with these kids. I think it's so important to one, give them the time of day. Again, I've seen staff that they kind of just come in to collect the paycheck and then they're out, and it's like you're missing so much. If you are I'm kind of adding on to my list, but if you are just in it for the paycheck, this is not the job for you. I've known many advisors that have been in this 15, 20 years, and they're just like, I'll even say it for myself. Obviously I want I want a paycheck, but there's been positions that have opened up that are a higher position, more pay, all the things, but it's really not about the money, and it's really about where I'm at and what I get to do. And for me, it really is just being able to engage with the kids, to get on their level, but also just I get to travel with the kids. We get to just experience a lot of different things. It's a blessing for me that I get to be a part of it, because it really is them. I'm just kind of there as a support system, as a chaperone, if you will, to just kind of get them there and keep them safe. So I say thank you to the parents for entrusting me in that to do those kind of things. But it's really just it's just so important that you just don't do it for a paycheck when it comes to this kind of work. Really for anything. I think you should really enjoy it. And yeah, money is great, but money comes, money goes. It can fade away really quickly, and is it really worth the money when you hate what you're doing? So, and that's how I feel I would maybe be jumping into certain positions, even within youth development. I just think leaving what I do would be very tough for me. I wish that I could just can I just get the higher pay and stay where I'm at? Obviously that doesn't work that way, but it's just something about what I do, that a lot of advisors get to do, that, man, I'm here, and I just love it. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard for me to explain, but I'm here and I love it. I don't plan on going anywhere, Lord willing. It's up to his will, up to his plan. But I don't plan on going anywhere, and I plan on just growing, and helping these teens grow. Hopefully I can just kind of leave an impact for them, because I've definitely, at least had a few that I still talk to this day, that they're just looking for Mr. J, and it's such a great feeling. And I'm hoping one day I get to go to a college graduation of a kid that has left. I think that I think that would be a bucket list thing for me, would be to go to when it comes to this job, there's a couple things that I desire to do in the position that I'm in, and I think that would be just one of them. Would be to be able to be invited to go, to have created such an impact. Again, not for me, but just in them being able to find somebody that they connect with and are just like, man, you know, and I wish that for any advisor, you know what I mean? As many kids as we all see that they're like, hey man, like I want you to be a part of this special moment in my life. So please come to my college graduation. I mean, a wedding would be crazy, but I'm not trying to push it. But yeah, I just think I'm just truly blessed to be in this position and be able to do what I do. So thank you to the people that have supported me. Thank you to my former boss director for hiring me and trusting me to do this, as much as I caused her a lot of stress in just wanting to dive into anything. But really, anything that I was trying to get into was all for the benefit of the kids, for them to get to experience things. And shout out to, you know, just the leadership that we have now, for just being supportive. I'm, again, still learning myself. So thank you for just your correction and teaching me along the way and helping me to understand things. So it's greatly appreciated. So thank you for that. And, yeah, I'm going to just kind of keep it kind of short and brief for you guys, but that's just a little bit of, you know, just where I've come from as far as this job, to, you know, just how important this kind of work is. And, you know, this is the future of our country, is these kids, whether they join the military or not. They're still the future. They're still, you know, kids that are, you know, hopefully, you know, going into the workforce, going to college, you know, getting certifications, all the things. It doesn't just have to be college, but, you know, they're the future, and, you know, and we play a big role in that, and, you know, potentially how, you know, just successful they can be, even just socially. So, I'm just grateful to have this position, and again, just trying to grow and get better to make them better at the end of the day. So, I'm just grateful to God for allowing me to be here, and allowing me to have this position and placing me in this position. So glory to God. Amen. I want to say thank you again, peace and God bless to everybody for checking out this episode. If you know a military kid, if you know a military family, just say hello, say a kind word. Show your appreciation this month. Do a kind thing. Do a cool thing. Show your support, because they go through a lot. But again, just shout out to all the military youth. This is Month of the Military Child. I just appreciate you guys so much. But yeah, again, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, check out our merch, our website, rightmindpodcast.com. We can get all that stuff. Check us out. If you're interested in being on the podcast, be sure to reach out. We are looking to just continue to grow and make more connections through conversations. But until next time, my name is Jay Faith. Shout out to the team, Life and Crispy. And this is the Right Mind Podcast. We'll catch y'all next time. What's up?